My name is Memo Ngui from Industrial Psychology Consultants. We do have these sessions more frequently. We had another one in the morning, and we had others last week. So we continue to share information during the lockdown due to the COVID-19 pandemic. So we bring in different experts to talk to us about different issues. And I'm glad today we've got Mr. DeCastro to talk to us about budgeting. So he's going to give an overview first, then we can then go into question and answer sessions. What is also important is if you don't want to ask the question directly, you can put it on the chat room. There's a chat section there where you can put the question. I can ask the question on your behalf, or the presenter can pick them up, but I would look at the questions, all of them, and ask on your behalf if you don't want to ask directly. So, Mr. DeCastro, I think it's exactly 3 o'clock. We start on time. If you can take over, you can do a brief introduction, then take over.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to some of folks in your area. Right now, for me, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. I'm talking from Indiana, United States.
Mm-hmm.
I work for a company called Brownability, which is the leader in the market of conversions of vehicles for accessibility for wheelchair people. And so we buy those big minivans, we convert them for someone with a wheelchair to be able to get into the vehicle. And we also produce lifts for buses and coach buses and things like that. So we're located out here in Indiana. We have a plant as well in Sweden, and a plant in Brazil, and a few things in Canada and UK. So I take care of all the cost accounting area. So I do all the budgeting, and month-end perspective and explanations, and with the operations team most part of my day. So I don't have anything to share with you guys in terms of presentation, because I don't know exactly what was the focus here, but I know I'll just give you guys some hints and a little bit of perspective how to prepare a budget. And I'm focusing on kind of HR, which is a little bit different from maybe if you work in manufacturing, how to do the manufacturing or engineering budget. So first of all, when HR is preparing a budget, they need to receive from many other departments their headcount or projects. So they will have an idea of how many heads they can add, or depending on the situation, reduce. So one important aspect of that is understanding how many people you have. I know that some companies that have some hard time, especially small companies, hard time to understand exactly how many people they have in-house, what those people do. So it's important to know exactly how many people you have, what they do, and how many you're going to need depending on the project. So what we do here, we lay out all the projects that are going to incur in that particular year. We're going to have a new launch of a product, or we need a new development or something like that. So we lay out how many projects we're going to have and how many resources we're going to need, given the amount of additional work is expected. So this is one of the ways we do here. And many companies do the same. So how many projects we're going to have, and lay out how many heads you need. Other things that HR is important to help with is if you work in a manufacturing environment, there are a lot of improvement projects or efficiency projects. So let's say that we have 10 people to do a job, and we want to improve, X%. By improving that, that means that we're going to actually reduce one hand. So that's other thing that you got to put in perspective, how many people, depending on the efficiency projects, how many people you're actually going to reduce. So kind of, this is more like on the headcount areas, more focused on improvements in projects. So how many people are going to add or reduce depending on. And of course, all sorts of things. Like, for example, this COVID situation that we're going through. I'm working from home now. Actually, since mid-March, I'm working from home. It's been tough, but we were really good at maintaining our costing, so we didn't lay off anybody. But I know many companies, they actually have to lay off people. So right now we're doing our planning, forecasting for the rest of the year, trying to understand we will eventually have to lay off someone. What we're doing, we're playing with a lot of stuff here, like furloughs, which a time that you can still be an employee, but you're not going to get paid by the company, so the government will actually pay your paycheck. So that saves a lot of money for the company. We're playing a lot with that right now in order to make sure that we can keep cash in house. But on the headcount perspective, that's pretty much it. I don't know if you guys have any question on this particular topic.
Yeah, I think you can proceed. We'll ask you questions maybe later on. I've got a few questions that I will ask you.
Okay, so should I keep going? And
yeah, you can go. I think you can proceed. Maybe let me ask you questions there. Okay.
Okay, sure.
You were talking about maybe you can give more details about the forecasting part from HR point of view.
Yeah, I will talk about other things. I'm just asking about if there's anything related to
headcount. No, there are no questions for now. We can proceed.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on with the budgeting process. So we figure out headcount. We know how many people we have. The second important thing right now, we're going to be a little bit more mathematical. So it's important for you to have the name. I mean, like a big list of person, title, position, area, and things like that, and the pay rate. So I don't know how is and where you guys at in terms of pay. Is it monthly pay, hourly pay? So here in the West, we have pretty much two types of pay. We got hourly pay, and then we got a salary. So hourly pay, right? Every hour you get paid of $20, $25, depending on your position. It's important to know what is the pay rate per person and per department, so we can have a better idea and be more accurate in terms of calculating the whole payroll. And then we have the salary, so those people are paid like per year. So we gotta get paid like $100,000 a year, and then you can see, okay, how much am I going to spend with this person that was going to get paid $100,000 a year? So I need to have a list of that thing as well. So this is one important thing. The second important thing that's important to know is how many overtime hours you guys are going to incur. Overtime. I will talk about the way we do here. I don't know if it's going to be applicable or not, but I think many other countries that I've ever seen, it's pretty much the same. So if you're working overtime, the rate is going to be 1.5 times the regular rate. So I don't know if that's the case.
Yeah, that's almost standard.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, right? Okay, that's good. So it's important to know how many hours you're going to incur. So going back to that project that we were talking about, so let's say that your team in HR, you guys are going to support a specific project, or you guys have your internal projects, and you have people who are hourly paid. You need to figure out a way to calculate the overtime hours. So you first of all, you kind of know, okay, how many days we're going to work. So we got 365 days. However, we have weekends, we have holidays, we have paid holidays, and so you got to figure out how many is going to be your working days, how many days you're going to actually have like paid holidays and things like that. Okay, so that's important to calculate. Normally, you're probably going to have about 240, between 240 and 250 working days. That's roughly. So then you're going to have, okay, those people are working 8 hours a day for 240 days. That's going to be X amount of hours. And given this project, or the sort of project we have, I really believe that we're going to incur in X amount of hours. You know, if I work in manufacturing, so the way we do here to calculate overtime, we look at, okay, so what's the production rate? So let's say a person is able to produce, I don't know, just giving up numbers, like just making up numbers here. A person is able to do like 2 products an hour. But given the demand, actually they would need to work actually for 2.5 hours. So that 30 minutes is the overtime times the amount of people. So that's the way. So I know that they're able to produce two things in an hour. Given the demand, they will need to work 2.5 hours per, per product. So that half hour should be overtime. You guys need to calculate something like that. As I said, I'm not very specific here. Just giving like overview of, you guys need to calculate overtime. That's very important for hourly people. Salary don't get paid overtime, so that's not part of the calculation. So okay, so we got the pay rate that you have to calculate. You need to know and how many hours you're going to incur, how many overtime hours your team is going to incur. The other important thing here is to understand what's the paid holidays. So okay, on those we're going to have like 10 days paid holidays. That's important to know. And vacation, which is going to be paid as well. Each country has a different way to do it, but it's pretty much, okay, you're going to have 20 days per year to take as a paid vacation. So it's important to have those 4 aspects: regular hours and regular pay, overtime hours and overtime pay, which is going to be 1.5 the regular pay rate, paid holidays, and paid vacation. Okay, so those 4 aspects is important to calculate what's going to be pretty much your payroll. The other thing is related to bonuses. If you guys paid bonus, probably you guys going to be paid bonus to your employees. Then every company has a perspective of how much they're going to pay, or they have a lot of calculations and rules. You got to calculate that as well to have an estimate of, okay, if we hit numbers, and if you're going to be conservative, you're probably going to pay 100% of the pay. So I know that every employee, so for example, you have this list of employees, and you know that this employee who is an analyst, whatever analyst, gets paid, I don't know, two paychecks or 10% of their yearly salary or something like that. It's important to have that by person, which helps you guys to calculate the bonus. But 100% normally is how a conservative approach would be. If this person gets $2,000, like let's say $100,000 in a year, and gets paid 10%, it's going to be 10,000 times 100%, and that's going to be the bonus for that person. 100,000 per year times 10%, you got 100,000 a year, 10%. Okay, you got 10,000 a year as a bonus. Okay, and then if you do the same, the total is going to be how much you're going to spend for bonus that year. Okay, so then moving down the line, you got all the payroll taxes and all sorts of, like here in the U.S. we got Medicare, Social Security, all sorts of things. Normally got rates, 1% per of paycheck, 2%, and then you guys have to know exactly those things. And then probably you guys have like group insurance, some sort of insurance, other benefits. You gotta lay all those out in order to show that and calculate each one. What's very important, then you guys need to talk to your accounting department, is to have like like indented, I would say, like a list, a comprehensive list of accounts, like what we call GL accounts. Okay, so I have this account is regular pay, this account is this. It's important for you guys to know exactly what is your GL structure for your HR department and what accounts are there. It's going to be easier for you guys to come up with the calculation, because you're going to calculate based on the account, and each account is a specific. So you got an account for bonus, you got an account for regular, you got an account for Social Security, an account for group insurance, you got an account, and all those items. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Then you're gonna probably have other accounts, for example, accounts for events, and then you gotta figure out, okay, how many events we're gonna have, how many people are gonna be there. Like my dog's here. And it's important to know every event that you guys are planning and what's gonna be the cost. It could be like a roughly, it's gonna be 50,000. Or if you want to be more specific, well, we're going to invite, 2 speakers, and their cost is this. We're going to have, 100 people. We're going to have, someone catering. You can be more specific depending on how your budget process is. For some companies, you have to be very detailed. As I said, like, you got to describe what you're spending, how many people are going to be there, food and the location, all that kind of stuff. Other places are, it's going to be 50,000, kind of a lump sum of everything. That depends on where you're working at and what are the specifications and descriptions of the expense. But then, okay, we talked about all the, let's say, labor area. We're gonna go down to what we could say, which is the overhead. So then a portion of the rent, well, someone is going to give it to you, so you're going to have rent. Like rent is like more fixed cost. Normally that's not going to happen, but if you guys are getting to a big project, you might have some depreciation in your department. I don't know, install a new system or a new HR system or something like that could be there. There's that events, you guys are going to have events, travel and entertainment, you guys are going to have anything related to that. It's important to have a calculation for that. What else I would say? Yeah, that's pretty much it. I think the payroll and, fringe benefits and things like that area is going to be the biggest on the HR. Which is still big depending on the company, because if you depending on the company and the type of the company work, the labor, which includes all this overtime and things like that, it's very high. For some other companies, like a manufacturing company, normally like material side and overhead is going to be much higher than labor per se. So that's going to depend, but that's pretty much it. For fixed costs, as I said, you guys might have fixed costs. Normally, I don't think you guys would calculate that unless you guys are 100% HR consulting company. But if you guys are just a HR, but you're part of another type of company, a manufacturing company or other type of service company, normally there will be someone there calculating the rent for you guys. Because normally going to be the rent for the building, and they're just going to split that by square footage, square meter, people, whatever. So then you're going to have rent as a fixed cost. Much all this labor is going to be, especially salary, is going to be fixed cost. Many of the fringe benefits are going to be somewhat fixed and variable, depends. But normally we could say this. It's kind of fixed, more fixed than variable. So then you're gonna have what else fixed? Probably like in HR area, you don't have a lot of fixed costs per se. It's more like variable, as I said, events, travel, don't know. That's going to be more specific for the company. Office supplies. You got some starts. You got some utilities like energy, gas, water. Normally, those are given by someone else. It's normally your accounting department. Accounting receives that big spreadsheet, and okay, this is allocated to HR. This is allocated to finance. This is allocated to purchase, and so forth. Normally, you guys will receive that. I think from the place I worked at, HR is important to help much more with the head count, calculation and fringe benefits, kind of all the rates, how much we're going to pay, in a life insurance or something like that. That comes from HR. That's HR is vital in that area. Okay, so let me think what else. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else in terms of budgeting here. But what I would say though is that depending on the size of your company and depending on how scrutinized you're going to be, especially by finance, I would prepare budget as detailed as possible. And why is that? If you have just I'm telling things from what I've seen. Okay, so if you use gut to calculate something, like let's say, well, I think the spend for this is going to be 50,000. If you go over, people will start asking questions. Okay, you budgeted 50,000, but now you're incurring 70,000. What happened? And you're going to have a hard time to explain why you're over 20,000 versus your budget. Whereas if you have a calculation, you could say, you know what? I calculated that this would happen, and maybe it was a little not too much aggressive. I was too much, too conservative on this approach. But this is what happened. So it's going to be easier for you to explain if you're over budget when you have the details behind that. Because you don't have it, people are going to look at this guy doesn't know, this person doesn't know what he's doing. It's important to have that, Of course, some accounts you don't need so much detail, but big accounts, things are going to be like 100,000. It's very important for you to have all the details and all the assumptions, because some of the accounts are assumptions, especially for example from the overtime. The overtime, we calculated this way, we thought this would happen. This didn't happen, and why it didn't happen? Well, this project took longer than what we expected, or this project was more complicated than what we oversaw. But you have the assumptions behind, which are, people could argue, well, your assumption was not very good. Well, yeah, but that was the only assumption we had at the time, given the knowledge we had of the project on that time. So sometimes the more is not that great, but for budgeting, most part of the time, the more is better, because you're going to have more information and more tools in your toolbox, which is going to be good. I think that's pretty much it, man. I don't know if you guys have any question.
Yeah, thank you. Let me start. There are some questions here. This says, how does an organization manage budget, share the cost for support staff? I think you tried to read it briefly on shared cost, where you are sharing costs with the other departments.
Oh, sorry. Now I saw the question.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that your share cost is pretty much how we allocate cost. That's kind of how I'm translating this.
Yes.
Yeah. So, for example, let's imagine that we have utility bills. Okay, normally that's that's one of the things that we do. Or rent. So we got paid. We pay in a monthly basis 100,000 for example. That's for the building. Everybody in the same building. How we're going to split that? Well, the regular way to doing that is by square. Probably guys use meters, square meters, or here in the U.S. square footage. Okay, so the HR office takes 20 square meters or 20 square foot or feet or something, whatever. So we're gonna see that is 20% of the whole square footage of the building. So the 100,000 that we pay every month, 20% is for HR. So 20,000 is gonna be for HR. That's one way we do the share. We share the costs or allocate costs. The other way, depending on what it is, normally could be by head count. So, for example, you guys might have an area called environmental health and safety, depending on the company. So the environmental health and safety area takes care of all the, as the name says, makes sure that we don't have any accidents. We make sure that if it's a manufacturing company, the employees have all the PPIs that they need, all the equipment. If there's no injuries or accidents, things like that. Make sure that we're complying with all the regulations for environmental regulations, or building regulations. So this department normally takes care of that. It's hard to allocate. So one way to allocate a department like this one normally is by head count. Again, well, the cost of this department is X. We divide that by heads, and how many heads HR has is going to be that times the rate per head. And that's one of the ways. The other way to share costs, sometimes it's not that easy. Then we have to do what we call, it's pretty much like that. It's called the ABC costing. It's a little, I'm not going to get into this because it's a little bit more complex, but the ABC cost is activity-based costing, which is, I don't know exactly how much time this department spends on this particular cost or this particular expense. So I would have to talk to the manager or get some sort of different data in order to calculate how much you're going to spend there. For example, let's say we have a department called maintenance, and we need to allocate some of the spending from maintenance to across other departments. Okay, so maintenance does all the repairs in the building, repairs in the machinery. So for HR, they do something for the office at HR. I don't know. They change the light bulbs. They do something. So how to allocate that? One way to do it is to normally maintenance teams, they have tickets. So for example, you're in HR. You need, I need this light to be fixed. You're going to open a ticket so the HR team will be able to see on their, their line or like a dashboard saying, okay, how many jobs I have to do today? Oh, there's one for HR. They'll go there and fix it. So one way for me to allocate that cost is going to everything that everything maintenance did for HR. And say, okay, maintenance, you had 20 tickets last year for HR. Average cost was this. And then we allocate that by either the cost per job or the number of jobs. That's going to be, just a calculation that you guys got to figure out which one's going to be, which is going to fit better. But those are kind of some of the methodologies. So it's normally going to be square footage, depending on what it is, or head count, or very specific is going to be, or as I said, the ABC you're gonna use something else, or even talking, like purchasing. How many hours your team, spends in this particular in HR? Well, you know what? Based on, sometimes it's going to be even gut, but based on some of the data we have, we feel that we spend 10% of our time for HR. Okay, so some of the spending and purchasing should be allocated to HR at 10%. It's going to depend a little bit on the account, but that's kind of how normally it happens. That's why it's important for you guys to work very closely to your accounting and finance team, especially the responsible for budgeting on the accounting, because he's gonna be able to drive you, and to kind of who to talk to, or should I do an interview, or should I just use some sort of different data? Okay, I hope it helped your question, or it answered your question.
Yeah, I think you did. The other one is on training. I think you touched on it. The whole training budget, does it go to HR, or you can allocate to the different departments that are also doing training?
Well, that depends, right? Because if you're talking about like company-wide training, that you're gonna have everybody, I'd say once a year, everybody has to go through this training. Yes, that's gonna be specific for the whole company, and then very likely we're gonna split that by headcount.
Mm-hmm.
However, if it's a very specific, it's like a department targeted, or I don't know, a group of, let's say, all the HR analysts. Well, that's only for HR analysts, so it's going to be 100% on HR, because you just have HR analysts going through that training. So if it's and more time, so if your guys are doing a budget, your HR is doing a budget for training for, I don't know, like use purchasing, which is, every company has a purchasing department. Okay, you guys are doing a purchasing training. More times, that's going to be 100% dedicated on purchasing. So this expense shouldn't be on HR budget. Should be on the purchasing budget. Okay, and even if it's normally that's going to be talked to before, but HR is going to be allocating and actually adding to the other departments some of the costs, especially the training side. So if you guys talk to the purchasing director, supply chain director, and you guys said, oh, you know what, I think it would be good for your team to go through this particular training. Oh yeah, the director says, oh, I'm fine with that. Yeah, that's great. Okay, it's gonna cost $1,000. Can we allocate this to your budget? If he says no, and you guys think that's important, you guys gotta try to negotiate that. If he says no, and you guys think that's really, really important, it's important to have it, you guys should talk to someone else, or figure out, because that cost shouldn't be, unless you guys want that. But I will fight to not have that into my budget if it's not getting used by HR. Because that's very specific. Unless you guys really understand that okay, you don't want to do it, but we as HR responsible, we think that's important. Then if you guys have a space, I think you guys should add that to your budget, because there are some specifics here. If it's more like an HR, how do I say that? Like an HR decision to do it. So let's say, well, we as HR, we want to do this to purchasing. no matter what. And I think would make sense to you if he doesn't want to allocate that into your budget because you want to do it. But if it's something that purchasing wants to do, like a training, and talk to HR about it, he should have the 100% of that cost. Okay. So normally, if it's a HR decision, if possible, you can allocate into every department. But ultimately, if it's not possible and you guys really want to do it, you should have that cost. If it's coming from someone else to you, like the other requesting from you, you could say, yes, we can help you, but the budget is going to be on your department. Of course, there's always negotiation here and there, but I would try to do my best if I was in HR and I'm not actually requesting that to allocate into their budget. Make sure that that goes to their budget. But the allocation would be the same. It would be by head count, by, the same way I talked about on the previous question. That is going to depend on how you're going to split that on the type.
Thank you. One other thing that we normally HR people struggle with in terms of costing is at what stage, for example, obviously your cost feed into your profitability as a business. The issue of staff cost to revenue. Staff cost to revenue. What is the significance of that in costing when I'm looking at costing and profitability of the business?
So you're talking about the margin of the business, right?
Yeah, your total staff cost as a percentage of your revenue or your income.
Okay.
What is the significance of that as I'm doing my budget?
Okay. Well, every company, they have what is called the gross margin. So the gross margin is your revenue minus your cost of goods sold. The cost of goods sold is all the costing required for you to produce, ship, and sell those products. So when you have that line, the gross margin, you're going to have a margin. So below this line, you have what we call the SG&A, sales, general, administration. So under here, you have sales, marketing, accounting, and HR, right? So HR is going to be a portion of this group here called SG&A. And yes, we're going to have our revenue here. And normally what companies do, they say, okay, finance represents X amount of our revenue. Let's say purchasing represents, Y, and HR represents Z. The higher you are, the lower is going to be your net profit towards the end. This means your cost. If your cost is 5% of your revenue, okay. But if you grow from 1 year to another, for whatever reason, from 5 to 10%, that means that you're eating more of your revenue. So this means that your margin is going to be lower because your cost is getting higher. Then we need to understand why it's getting higher. The company is growing, 50%. I need to hire more HR analysts, or I need to hire someone else. So why am I growing? That goes back to the hint I gave you at the beginning. You have to explain what happened. Okay, it could be something like different. It could be, my cost is still the same pretty much, but my revenues for one reason went down. We're foreseeing, a big issue next year, or we were expecting to launch a particular product that year, and we're not going to launch, or it's going to be pushed out towards the end of the year, so we're not going to have the full year of benefits from that particular product. For whatever reason, your revenue goes down a little bit, so that means that your percentage represents a little bit higher. So because there was a reduction in your revenue forecast, right now, instead of 5%, HR is going to represent 6%. Whoa. What happened? Well, our cost is still the same, but our revenue is lower, so we kind of our weight is kind of higher. We're heavier right now on the cost structure. Well, in this case, as long as you still can explain, well, you know what, we're not growing really. We're keeping the same amount of people, you know, these revenues, they're actually going down. So there's going to be another 1, 2, 3 rounds of, okay, we got to cut costs here. Where? Maybe it's not going to be an HR. Maybe it's going to be somewhere else. You know, that's going to depend. Normally, as I said, unless you are a very or HR consulting company, which is 100% HR, HR is not a big, you know, cost for the company as a percentage of revenue. Normally, it's not. Normally, going to have other departments like marketing and sales much bigger than HR. Right? HR is a very crucial, important area of the company, but it's quite, I would say, quite steady in terms of how the cost fluctuates in HR. It's kind of very, very steady. It doesn't fluctuate a lot because you don't have, or your company is growing, you have a lot of costs going up and spiking for whatever reason. So, but yeah, so that's what represents. So if you can understand what's the percentage of your company, it's pretty much, okay, my cost divided by revenue, that's going to give you, my department cost divided by my revenue is going to give you a percentage. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that the higher, worse. That means that you're eating more of the revenue. The cost is higher. Your margin is going to be lower, which could impact bonuses and, you know, the health of the company from the long term and things like that. That's why we try to make sure that we have the cost as low as possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Let me take, if there are any other questions, the other one, does the training budget resides under finance or HR?
Well, if you're asking who does it, that should be done by HR with the department that is requesting. So if it's an HR idea, okay, HR is going to do that calculation. And as I said before, if possible, allocate that into the other departments, or ultimately the HR will keep that. But if it's a training required by other departments, that budget cost should be allocated and should be 100% on that particular area. Mm-hmm. Finance here is not going to own that training cost. So at all, unless finance is requesting. So let's say, oh, I want to train all my, you know, financial analysts here, and I need to have like a consulting company in HR. I need your help. But still, it's going to be in finance. So as I said, that would depend. But HR, if finance doesn't own that training, unless it's specific for it.
Okay, yeah. The next question is, what is the standard cost, staff cost ratio to revenue?
Standard staff cost. I won't be able to tell you because that would depend on the size of your company and the size of the cost. I would tell you that if it's a very focused HR company, could be 80%, 70%, because you still have other, you know, you might have like a purchasing department, you're still gonna have like a finance, even if you're like a consulting company, HR consulting company, you still have something like that, unless you're outsourcing everything. Normally some companies do that. All the finance, they outsource something else, but you're still gonna have something else. But you might have, like in a manufacturing company, HR could be like 3%, 5%. You know, it will depend on the size. There's no, it will vary depending on the industry and on the size of the company. Mm-hmm. For example, I worked in a company that the HR was like a service company, like with a telecom company. HR was kind of big because they were very focused on giving all sorts of benefits and things. So it was like HR was a little bigger, but it wasn't even 10%. It was kind of 7, 8. And like where I work now, the HR is very, very small. So HR doesn't represent, I don't know, less than 5%. Yeah. So yeah, it's hard to tell.
Okay.
It will vary.
Thank you very much. Maybe let me open up so that we can get to the end of the session. If there are any participants with any direct questions, you're free to ask those questions now. You just unmute yourself and ask the question. Yeah, it seems there are no questions. I would like to thank you very much, Mr. DeCastro, for agreeing to talk to us. It's very early in the morning there. For us, it's towards the end of the day. We are now close to 4 o'clock. So thank you very much for
All right, I appreciate the opportunity, Memory.
Thank you very
much.
much.
It's good to talk to you guys.
Yeah, thank you very much. Like I indicated earlier on, this is recorded. I will share the link with you so that you can see how we were doing and what questions people were asking. But we hope to work with you again in future if you've got anything to do with costing in the field of HR.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Enjoy your day.
You.
Thank you.
Thank you to you guys. Goodbye.
Thank you.